we ground share a lot with football, as you can imagine. So now we'll have somewhere we can stick the posts up and have the home of Rwandan rugby.
And for those who didn't hear the original interview, which includes me, because it was Colin Murray who was doing the programme last July, just explain and remind us why rugby and why Rwanda.
We feel that rugby helps to build very strong relationships. When you're on the ground getting trampled, you need your mates to come and help you out. And we just felt that Rwanda would benefit from that within its society. And I had a personal relationship with Rwanda myself as a VSO volunteer there. So we started to introduce it with students, and they grew a passion for the sport, and they really came to us to get more help with knowledge, information and equipment.
But until this moment, rugby and Rwanda really hadn't met, had they?
True. 2001 was a bad time for rugby in Rwanda. Most people had never heard of it at all. I think it had been played by expatriates, but until 2001 there was nobody playing at all, and now there are substantially a lot more people playing it, and a lot of youngsters really loving the game and sharing their passion with others.
And do they get more out of playing rugby than they would any other sport? I mean, clearly you learn a lot about teamwork from all kinds of sport if you're involved in that. But is there something that they, in your opinion, they specifically get from rugby which they wouldn't get if they were playing football?
Without question. The friendships that are formed and the safety they provide on the bottom of a ruck, there's no place to hide. Rugby's a contact game, mate. It's not like football. You need to be friends with the people that you're playing with, so they take care of you and you take care of them. So, yeah, I do genuinely believe it's a social fabric building tool. And the community of rugby around the world, people that love rugby, they're mad about it. They're fanatical about it. It's in them, and that passion is something that we're trying to give access to the Rwandans. You know, they need to be able to see that. At the moment, they don't have a lot of access to new influences and a variety of sports and culture and things. The country's been, you know, it's a landlocked country, 9 million people, not a lot of people coming into the country over perhaps the last 50 years. So this is a totally new game for them, and they just love it. They absolutely love it.
But presumably, it'll never... I mean, the ultimate street game has to be football, where you can just knock a ball around, put a couple of... famously, you know, a couple of jumpers on the ground and you're up and running. With rugby, I mean, there is a version of rugby which you can play, but to do it properly, you need the posts.
It's true. You definitely need a skill set. So we'd love anybody that was interested in Britain who had a knowledge base in rugby, coaching, refereeing, playing. We'd love them to think about coming to Rwanda to impart some of that knowledge. There is technical knowledge, line-out scrums, tackling, defensive patterns, things like that. Catching and passing, running forwards, passing the ball backwards. Pretty foreign concept. If you've never seen it, they've never seen it.
It does beg the question, but I'm sure people must say, you mean we can't throw it forward?
Yeah, it's very the offside line is definitely something in Rwandan as well. You know, this is a language, not a lot of people speak English out there, so trying to explain these pretty complicated ideas to them in
What's the most difficult rule to explain?
I think the passing forward rule is the toughest. I mean, a lot of them have come from a basketball background, so their natural instinct is to chuck it to whoever's in front of them and, you know, to run ahead and demand the ball. So I think passing forwards is probably the biggest deal.
So how many teams are there playing rugby in Rwanda now?
Currently there's 8 teams in the Premier League, I guess you'd call that. We are instigating the first national schools competition commencing Sunday 2 weeks. There's 7 teams in Kigali, the capital, and 6 teams in Gitarama, so 13. We've also got various street children's teams, orphanage teams, university teams. I would suggest to you there's 2,000 people playing rugby in Rwanda at the moment.
And this is men and women, girls and boys?
Yeah, we're entrenching it with the men at the moment. There are a few issues, simple things like sports bras and such for women out there is not really something that makes their life easy and accessible. So women are definitely keen to play, and that's something we're going to focus on in the next sort of adventure when we head out.
I was just reading some of the player profiles of some of the players that you have out there, and Angelique talking about a particular influence on her game, someone by the name of Heavy Atakikimana. Did I get that right? But anyway, if I got the second name wrong, fancy being called Heavy. What a terrific name if you're a rugby player.
Yeah, I think he's pretty much gained that through reputation. He's been playing for the national team since it was started in 2002. And he's had a lot of influence on the younger players. They look to him, he's been described as a happy player. they can tell he's got a real love of the sport, and that's what they're trying to emulate.
Okay, we'll talk more with Emma and Deena in just a moment. If you want to ask a question or just donate £10,000 for another piece of land, Mayo at bbc.co.uk. You can text 85058. This is 5 Live. The news comes next.
On DAB Digital Radio, Digital TV, down.